What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yeah.
So, Nick, what can I say about Khamzat Chimaev? Another outing, another flawless victory, defeated Jingliang, the number 11 ranked welterweight, without taking a punch. I mean, how good is this guy?
That's about the best way you can possibly describe this fight. I mean, we thought for a second Lee might be able to be a tough opponent and drag him into a little bit of deeper waters as in a couple minutes into the first round.
Yeah.
But to see this guy have only 2 strikes landed on him and now in 4 fights in the UFC is just kind of ridiculous. And everybody knows how tough Jingliang is. So to see him just kind of get dismantled and toyed with and picked up and then held there for a minute before Dana put his phone down. You know, he was waiting to do the slam when the boss was looking, paying full attention. he needed Dana's undivided attention. He got it. And then it was all but over as soon as that first shot was taken.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute star in the making. Yeah. He's got the skills to back up everything he says, and he's fun. You know, he talks about smashing people, and he's a student of the game. Said he studies even his training partner, Gustafson's foe, John Jones, and he studies Conor, and he studies Khabib, and he tries to take something from each fighter. I got to be honest, in my personal opinion, I think he gives everybody at welterweight problems. I think that he would give Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington problems, depending on who wins that fight. And then you have to look at who could be potentially next for him. You know, the the UFC rankings won't come out until Tuesday. We're shooting this video here on Sunday, but rankingsmma.com comes out with theirs immediately after the fight or shortly thereafter. He's already moved to the number 5 spot on rankingsmma.com.
Yeah.
He has surpassed the likes of Michael Chiesa, Vicente Luque, and he has eclipsed the top 5. I think this guy is as good as advertised, and I think we're witnessing the rise of the best welterweight in the world on his way to claim the title.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with them putting him at number 5 because I don't personally see 5 people at 170 that I think would beat him, and I definitely wouldn't put my money on any of those 5 beating him. You know, Kamaru Usman, given what he's done and how impressive he's looked in the last few fights, I think it would be a close fight, but everybody else, and maybe Colby Covington, but everybody else, I think he just tears them apart. It's really crazy to think that we've got a guy who's now only 4 fights in, only been struck in the UFC twice, but when you get to that high level, it's just like any other sport. It's a game of inches. And clearly he has the skills to beat anybody on any given night, and they have the skills to beat him on any given night, but it's a game of inches, and it's not like this big jump in skills or like, you know, a wide range of difference in the skill level between Kamaru Usman and Khamzat. One might be better than the other, but not by that much.
Right.
And it just kind of depends on which direction the fight goes. But after seeing the way he's been able to perform in all of these fights, I think early on I'd probably take him to win that fight for the athleticism, the youth, the speed, the strength, and just the hunger. I think that guy is hungrier than anybody that's fighting right now. And he sort of seems like he picked up right where he left off after that amazing entrance into the UFC, fighting 3 times in 60 days or whatever it was, a 10-day turnaround, and breaking records and all that stuff. After taking a year off of COVID, I was like, oh, man, hopefully he doesn't lose much steam. He definitely didn't do that. I feel like he picked up right where he left off and then blasted up even further into stardom.
Yeah, Dana White said after in the post-fight press conference that he is for sure going to be in the top 10. And how can you not? When you beat the number 11 guy without getting struck, it's kind of hard to deny you a top 10 spot.
Right.
I think if we're going to look at any potential problem or speed bump for Khamzat, it might be the scale. You know, he had a hard time making 170. Some people called it the towel gate, the Daniel Cormier 2.0. Right. So, you know, one thing we know about weight cutting is the more times you force your body to do it, the harder it gets. And Khamzat has already said he has designs on 185. So maybe that might be the only speed bump at 170. But we were talking about it yesterday after the fight. And I said, Nick, honestly, if Kamaru Usman or Colby Covington, either one of them, were to have to pull out next weekend and Khamzat were able to get to New York City and fight for that belt, who would you realistically pick in each one of those matchups? And I said, at least I said, it would be kind of hard to pick against Khamzat in either one of them. And I know that sounds crazy because I said the same thing about Kamaru when he was coming up. When he was ragdolling people, I said, I think he was like in the top 10 at the time. I said, this is the best welterweight in the planet. He just hasn't gotten the belt yet. I truly feel the same way for Khamzat right now. And I believe that the style he presents, he's a wrestler. He's a pressure grappler. Kamaru is kind of the same thing. He's been able to ascertain a lot of power later on in his career, but his base is still wrestling. And I think Khamzat might be just a little bit better in that regard. It would be a very interesting, very tough fight, but I really, truly think I might pick Khamzat Chimaev to beat anybody that weighs 170 that fights in the UFC at this moment.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. And, it's going to be wild to see them take the octagon against each other. I personally think Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev are on a collision course towards each other. And maybe Colby Covington will throw a wrench into things, and that might, switch positions. But if he ragdolls these guys, we're talking about one of the greatest fighters that's ever been in the UFC, and he's only 10 fights into his professional career, not his UFC career, his professional career. So it's really amazing to see just the kind of leaps and bounds he's making fight after fight after fight. And when you look at the star power, he's there. He was on there with Islam Makhachev, who has become a megastar because of his megastar best friend and brother, essentially, Khabib.
Yeah.
And when you look at the numbers that he was doing, he trumped Islam as far as the analytics and the views and the hype around his name on this fight card. Glover Teixeira is a living legend. People know who he is. People love and respect him. Jan Blachowicz beat the biggest active star in the sport right now in Izzy Adesanya, so he was fresh on people's minds. He blew all of them out of the water with the viewership, with the hype around his name, with the embedded stuff, with the countdown. Everybody wanted to see Khamzat. And on a fight night that had, or a main card that had a ridiculous amount of amazing fights and performances, he stood out above and beyond everybody else, kind of by a mile. You're talking about Islam Makhachev finishing Dan Hooker in the first round.
Yeah.
It wasn't near as impressive as what Khamzat did.
Yeah.
You're talking about Peter Yan dismantling Corey Sandhagen late into the rounds and having arguably one of the best bantamweight fights we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
You're talking about Glover Teixeira, 42 years young, taking the belt from Jan Blachowicz, the big bad Blachowicz who's beaten everybody, seemingly invincible, and still Khamzat's the guy that shines through over all of them. So I think the sky is the limit for this guy, and the UFC understands exactly what we understand. They need to fast track this man into the top spots, because it's almost unfair to put him in there with anybody less than a top 5 opponent right now, because he's just kind of bullying these guys and not even getting hit doing it.
Yeah, and we kind of get an early sneak peek on this channel because we see the analytics from the video. So to add to the numbers that ESPN put out saying that Khamzat had the most buzz, the most social media posts were trending around him, our videos very much reflect that. And it's funny, when we first did a video on him a year ago, it just went through the roof. And I was like, I was not expecting that. Nobody really knew who this guy was, but consistently, every time we put out content on Khamzat Chimaev, it does extremely well. And I think you can just take a look at what people are searching for, what people are hungry to digest as far as content goes. And Khamzat Chimaev is it right now. Yeah. And he's like Makhachev in the sense that he's just that dominant with the grappling, but I believe he has more power, and I believe his marketability is a little bit more because he understands, not to say that Islam doesn't, but he just doesn't really enjoy playing the game that much. Him and Khabib are very much, we get in there, we handle business, we look flawless. It's almost like Fedor in a way. But Khamzat Chimaev, he talks about eating people, ripping their hearts out, smashing people, carrying his opponent to Dana White and telling him to put his cell phone down. I mean, the guy adds another layer of entertainment on top of the skill that he already possesses. There really is nothing to break down about the fight. I mean, he went over and he implemented his game plan. I mean, he picked Lee up, took him down, beat the crap out of him, submitted him with a choke. I mean, it was just that flawless. And so what we can really lean to and look forward to is who could he fight next. And I think there's a couple of options. I think Michael Chiesa is one because of his submission ability. He's very sneaky on the ground, and we think that fight would likely go to the ground. Gilbert Burns, who's ahead of him in the rankings, also very good, world jiu-jitsu champion. And then I think maybe Vicente Luque, because of his rising star power, athleticism, he's got some good power and he's a very well-rounded fighter, but because he's probably not going to just be thrust into the title fight next. So I think one of those three people might be a good opponent for him next. And if he does the same thing to them, then what can you really say? You got to give this guy his title shot.
Yeah, because nobody else in the world can do what he did to Li Jingliang to any of those three guys.
No.
And I think Gilbert Burns is the most difficult opponent between all three of those guys. All three great options. Gilbert probably poses the most threat because he's probably the best on the ground. Honestly, I don't see Michael Chiesa getting out of the first round with Khamzat, and I don't see Luque being able to stop the takedowns. And the scary thing about Khamzat is he can strike. He might not be at Luque's level. He might not be a wonder boy. He can strike enough for you to worry about it, and then he takes you down with maybe some of the fastest entries in his takedowns that I've ever seen. You know, a lot of people wrestle and come to the UFC and they perform really well. But when you have somebody that is like 100% on his takedown attempts, like he throws a couple of things at your face to get your hands up, and then before you know it, he's on your leg.
Yeah.
And then you're not getting back up from there. A lot of wrestlers are kind of slower. They'll chain things together. He doesn't really seem like he has to chain much together. He got a hold of the leg, quickly went to the back, tied up the body, took him down when Dana was watching, and then it was all but over from then. But I just feel like Gilbert Burns would probably give him the biggest issues, but after that last fight last night, I don't really know if Gilbert Burns stands much of a chance either.
Call me crazy, but I think we're witnessing the rise of the best welterweight in the division right now.
Yeah, and you know, one last thing, I think high percentage game plans, high percentage maneuvers and tactics is what is going to give anybody that's fighting in the UFC the best chance at having a beautiful record like Khabib or Floyd Mayweather, but potentially undefeated. The days of really good strikers going undefeated is almost done because it's too hard. You can't go stand and trade with somebody time and time and time again and not get cracked. I mean, look at Conor McGregor. He got cracked by Khabib. But these high percentage grapplers, they know exactly what to do. I find it very entertaining because if you can hold somebody down against their will, some high level athlete, and beat them up and then choke them out, and you're constantly moving forward and progressing on the ground, it's very entertaining. People love it. Even people that really like the knockouts and stuff, they find this stuff entertaining, and they definitely find Khamzat scary and like one of those invincible forces. So I can't wait to see what he does next. Hopefully it's a quick turnaround. I'd like to see him fight before the end of the year.
Me too.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Drop us a comment and let us know what you think about Borz. Is Khamzat Chimaev as good as advertised, and is he on a collision course with the winner of Usman versus Covington? We always love chatting with you guys in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet and you love things MMA related, that's what we talk about here, so a subscribe is always much appreciated. And check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Until the next video, guys, have a wonderful day.
Peace.